In the bottom right corner, we have from Team Light Esports, it's Kawaiilight. Adrian has been around the StarCraft scene since Brood War as one of the youngest people. Actually, I have a funny story to tell about him. But we'll talk about that in a second while we introduce the player in the top right. Desrow from Team Pulse Esports. Desrow has been training hard in Ministry of Win, and he does a lot of coaching on his stream. If you ever watch him on, I think it's twitch.tv/Desrow, it's he does a bunch of coaching. He tries to interact with people, and he's one of the guys that tries to put on a consistent good show.
Yeah, he's a very active community member, and he's become a very strong StarCraft 2 player. I'm pretty eager to hear about this Kawhi story though, because I like stories.
Yes, you do, Ben, and I'm sure everyone loves story too. So, back when Brood War was still kind of young and the scene was kind of developing, back when Greedtorp was still like in high school, if you can think about back that far, there was this really annoying 13-year-old kid on like the bound server called Kawaiilight, and he kept asking every single clan if you can join. Like, apparently he's like, "Can I join?" And they're like, "No." Like, this is a 13-year-old kid who like doesn't really do anything. And they're like, it's like, can I join now? And he asks like a month later. He's like, can I join now? And they're like, no, maybe later. And he keeps asking and asking. And finally, the only person to ever give Kawaiilight a chance was this guy named Xeris. And he said, oh, fine, okay, if you just leave me alone, I'll let you play with our guys. And like 8 years later, he's still on his team.
8 years later.
Now they're like best friends.
Xeris and Kawhi are like two peas in a pod, running Team Light. Light's had some, I would say, some pretty reasonable, moderate successes. As
yeah, they do all right in the ESCA.
Golden was on Light for a period of time, and he had some really nice runs.
Son actually did pretty decently at MLG, just the most recent one too. He made a pretty good run in the open bracket, but he did meet some pretty tough opponents in that bracket as well. I think overall Light's one of those teams that kind of needs to exist in order for the pro scene to go. You need the semi-professional teams to kind of feed into the pro teams. Like Suppy was on Check 6 for a long time, and then when he does well, EG offers him that contract and he can move up. And for a while, Suppy was kind of like this guy that obscure amount of people knew if you watched his cast in Brood War or you watched CSL. But now he's making a big name and he's going to be competing in the Battle.net World Championship next week.
Yeah, you see some of that with Light as well. Light's got a lot of really talented young kids on their team. They've got guys like Kawhi, guys like Bensky, who really excel in those CSL environments. So while they might not have this sort of global recognition as a Liquid or an EG, very important teams, very relevant teams, and teams that certainly create a lot of opportunities for their players. Now we do have another fairly fast expansion here out of Kawhi, 1 Rax fast expand into double gas, throwing down a second Rax behind it. Desrow also playing macro here on Entombed Valley. Neither player really revealing exactly what they want to do just yet.
Yeah, it's still kind of tough because Desrow doesn't have any full disclosure information. Oh, never mind. He caught a whiff of that command center, so he does know. That's actually really big that Desrow got that information. Totally worth it. Entombed Valley is a map that you can really punish your opponent both ways, as a Terran player and as a Protoss player. The ramp is very wide, and wide ramps allow just massive, massive attacks. So I think it's a really, really nice information gathering there by Desrow. By Desi.
The Des going up to 2-gate Robo, as he is going to be playing fairly passively, at least in the early parts of this game. Kawhi's just kind of sitting back, staying safe, not really making any sort of serious commitments. Although we do see a Tech Lab down. Looks like he's going to go for some sort of Bio-Siege tank play here on Entombed Valley. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's really interesting because you don't really see that often unless you rush for a third command center. We've seen some Terrans go for siege mode to be safe against any kind of 2-base push, which could be possible considering Desrow went for a 1-gate Robo. He's going for a fast amount of tech, although Desrow hasn't grabbed his 3rd or 4th gases yet. That's something very relevant at the same time. If Desrow starts gassing, then he might drop tech like a Robo Bay and push. And Entombed Valley is also another pretty good map to do a 2-base Colossus push.
He does have the Forge and the Robotics Bay going down around the same time as we saw it go down on Cloud Kingdom. So that's definitely a possibility even still. Siege tanks will help a little bit about that kind of a push, though, Dan, because they have such great range. They have such great defensive abilities.
Oh, well, he's not even going up to starport. So Kawaiilight might just go for a raw Marine tank
Kawhi's going to be doing the crazy push. He's going to be one of those 8-minute tank Marine pushes.
That's crazy. We haven't seen this in such a long time. I know Marine King actually thought about doing this idea. I've seen Illusion try pulling this off in Terran vs. Protoss as well. He is moving down the ramp, but Desrow does see it. Still has a lot of time before his Colossus comes out. Even if they do, he needs Thermal Lance in order to fight this.
Yeah, okay, and Kawhi's going to go ahead and start moving. Desrow does have that observer in position, and you have to just assume that he's recognizing already exactly what he's up against. Definitely now that these Stalkers see the army moving out. And what is Desrow going to have to do to hold this? If we look at the units tab, he does not have anything out on the map at all. Dan, the army supply for Desrow, 22. But that is all tied up in 3 Zealots, 2 Stalkers, and an Immortal. He's playing against 24 Marines. There are more Marines on the map than Desrow has army supply.
I mean, and all of his units that he has is not great against fighting this Marine tank composition, other than this one Immortal. And even if he does, Desrow doesn't even have enough for Guardian Shield. He's force fielding. He's forced to engage right here, but that's exactly what Kawaiilight wants. Now he can start the bunker process, forcing the probes off the mineral lines. Desrow has to do something. He can't necessarily defend this expansion. He needs to at least evacuate some of the probes because they're going to die.
There is a Colossus that just entered the field, but no Thermal Lance is going to make engaging very difficult. Desrow hasn't even tried to start Thermal Lance. Probes are trying to stay safe, but it's very difficult with siege tanks and Marines. In these kinds of numbers, Desrow is going to try to bust out, does not want to allow these bunkers to finish. It's all or nothing for Desrow. Kawhi also committing a great deal to this attack, really needs it to work. Colossus barely stays alive with just 4 hit points, and Desrow will hold. And he does so with really... with some authority, with some certainty. Comes out of that with 31 probes to 45 SCVs. That means he's behind economically, but that was a big win militarily, and he is now up in the army supply. His tech is pretty well developed, and I think he now has a window where when Thermal Lance finishes that he can try to do some really big damage back.
Yeah, Desrow did lose a lot of economy, though. 31 probes is nothing to scoff at, but I think you're right, and if he can capitalize on the use of his army, maybe Desrow can pull himself back. Kawaiilight does have 2 tanks, though, and it's still tough to push in as a Protoss player. Just look at this army. It's a ragtag group of the most random assortments of units. He's got 2 Colossus, 2 Sentries, a Stalker, and an Immortal. This really hard to make.
This Stalker has seen things, man. He's
terrible things.
He's been in the mix. But I don't think his life's been quite as hard as his Colossus's, man. He's just got, like, he's being held together by his side shields.
About to die too. just send it back home, Desrow, and make it part of the Wounded Colossus project.
Thermal Lance is still about 50 seconds away from completion. Not going to be ready anytime soon, and by the time it is complete, there's going to be 4 or 5 tanks out on the map. So Kawhi's position looking a lot stronger than I initially suspected, and I think Desrow realizes that he's just going to throw down a 3rd base now. Not going to try and do anything crazy with this army. He's going to hopefully capitalize on his faster 3rd Nexus, and it is going to be faster, although Kawhi's 3rd command center is going to be done around the same time, and he should be mining pretty soon as well.
Desrow has to be careful. Doesn't want to throw away. It's very easy for the Colossus just to get out of position. Now, the big thing that Kawaiilight has to be cautious of, or sorry, that Desrow has to be cautious of, is that he's exposing where his army is, which means Kawaiilight, as soon as the medevacs come out, really could just load up for a drop and then go and pick off Desrow. Desrow really just has only Zealots back at home. He doesn't have anything defending. Imagine if one drop, Ben, positioned himself, postured up in the top right of their main. So many tech structures are here. 2 forges, a Twilight Council, and a robotics base.
That's exactly what we're going to be seeing, Dan. But look at this great probe, the hero probe, who spots the drop. And Desrow is frantically running back to his natural. He's warping in units. Among them, High Templar.
He can feedback, but he chooses not to.
Feedback totally overrated right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the medevacs don't have that much energy on it, but still good enough. It is the first medevacs for Terran, which does represent a lot of time. Kawaiilight finished up his third base, also getting 1-1, so he is behind the upgrades. It's something Desrow has to his advantage, which is huge considering charge is done. And Desrow's been able to really pull himself back in terms of the worker count because he's been able to keep a constant flow of units. And I think Desrow's in an awesome spot. Starting to set up pylons around the map, which is what you want to do on Doom Valley. Things are looking good for the Protoss in the mid game.
Yeah, Desrow playing this out very, very nicely, getting his important tech, Storm, Charge, getting his important upgrades, +2 armor, +2 weapons. And his economy has recovered nicely. He's even right now a little bit ahead, mining slightly more because he has been working off of 3 bases for a bit longer than Kawhi has. So Desrow has reasserted himself. He's definitely stable here in the mid game. And really all that remains is for him to kick this macro into high gear, make a bunch of units, and go find a good fight somewhere.
I do like the transition to Ghost 2 from Kawaiilight, realizing, you know, it's he hasn't shown that many Colossus. In fact, I haven't seen him make anything. I saw Templars out into the field. I need to start getting Ghosts as well. But it seems like now Kawaiilight doesn't really have a good composition to even push against Protoss, so he has to kind of play this even more defensive, and he's getting a 4th base. Meanwhile, that gives plenty of time for Desrow to just get that super strong, intimidating 3-3 army if he really wanted to. Although Desrow does have a huge flux of units, and he can have 2-2 lined up very nicely over his opponent, because, I mean, Kawaiilight still has about a minute and a half before his upgrades finish.
Supplies are about even when you look at the army supplies, 98 to just 95. But, I mean, I think Desrow should maybe try to do something with his 2-2. He is going to catch some Marines out in the middle of the map, and his army's going to come out at the same time. But between the Storm and the Colossi, Desrow has a ton of anti-infantry, and Kawaiilight seems to realize just how perilous his position may be. He's backing off right now.
Yeah, he can't engage right now. He doesn't have Ghost onto the field. Now 2-2 is not even done. The Zels are going forward into the charge lots. Kawaiilight needs to split up immediately. Doesn't want to get stormed or force fielded. He's going to start splitting as much as he can. Kawaiilight also has a phenomenal bio control, but he doesn't even have that much bio. And Desrow now has a huge window of opportunity to be able to poke this third, maybe even shut it down.
And he's going to come right at the ramp, and there's not that many units out for Kawhi. Does he have storm energy? No, he does not. He's used up all of his storms. So Desrow cannot continue to push up into that third base. However, he does have a very strong army. He has a ton of map control, and he's going to go ahead and take a 4th base. So excellent transitioning here from Desrow. And Kawhi, he's going to be forced to sit back up at the top of his ramp and try to once more establish an army.
Yeah, I think Desrow's in a very nice spot. 4th base going up while being able to poke in. Although 2-2 now has finished for Kawaiilight, so the fight's a lot more even. If he can get EMPs off, then I think this army composition from Kawaiilight would still be able to fight this army head on. I think Desrow needs to be very cautious not to overextend. You can see he's immediately starting to show restraint, pulling back. It's the right move, Ben.
Yeah, he wants to make sure he has energy for storms. He probably wants to warp in a few more High Templar in the meantime. We can see Desrow is constantly warping in on this set of pylons in the bottom half of the map where he wants to force an engagement near Kawhi's 4th base. Kawhi is landing, by the way, that 4th command center. And not only that, he's going to come over here and spot these pylons that Desrow has out on the map. So Kawhi should react to this. The question is, will Desrow be able to capitalize on the movement of Kawaiilight?
Yeah, I do like that Desrow switching back into Colossus. Oh, but EMPs on half the units. The Immortals can't really take a lot of damage. Kawaiilight has a pretty nice engagement, but he has to dodge the storms.
The fantastic storms all over the army of Kawhi. This Templar coming up from behind and completely flanking and crushing a lot of those bio units, and Desrow will decisively win this fight and should possibly, yes he will. He will shut down this 4th base, and Kawhi will tap out. GG Desrow. Taking out the Terran representative of Team Light, the Terran team captain.
Is he really the captain?
I do believe so.
Oh, that's really cool. Just to see, it's just show you how long he's come along. Well done by Desrow. I think the Templar flanks, we've been seeing that a lot in Protoss vs Terran. Very nice. Kind of like the Infestors from the behind. or just anything goes from behind are also very powerful. Just in general, casters flanking the army is very powerful, especially with their AoE abilities. I think overall that was really nicely done, because I think Kawaiilight was in a great position if he didn't have those storms to be able to crush the Protoss army, because the Colossus was gone. There's no shield immortals against Marine Marauder.
Yes, that's exactly right, Dan. And Desrow was just able to overwhelm, and take out Kawaiilight in that third and final map. That game brought to you guys by GoToMyPC. Remote access to your computer from anywhere on the planet. You can download that software over at nasl.tv/p/GoToMyPC. We are going to take another short break. We've got another game from the Open coming up. It's going to be Revival versus Major. So that's going to be a very exciting foreign Terran versus a very exciting foreign Zerg player. And it's going to be starting up in just a minute. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back.